introduction. And thanks everyone for coming. At the end, it was a very fun event and very inspiring. And today I'm gonna talk about my PhD research in chemistry at the University of Washington. And I'm gonna talk about the work I'm doing on next generation solar. I hope in a fun way, and you get excited as I am about this research, but at least that you get home with some knowledge on this topic, that is a very hot topic. And so I'm gonna talk about perovskite solar cell. So the name perovskite, I know it sounds very uncommon, but actually it represents one of the most common crystals that we can find on Earth. But we don't see it very often. This is because it is buried in the lower mantle of Earth, which is composed by 93% of these crystals. But why we care about this material so much nowadays? First of all, perovskite is the name of the generic crystalline structure, but these materials can be made by 90% of the metal elements that we find in the periodic table, which make this material extremely tunable. For this reason, scientists have started playing with their composition to find new materials with innovative properties. And around 10 years ago, they found out that a mixture of cesium, lead iodide, and methyl ammonium had a very high conductivity for electrons. So they decided to study it more in depth. And they found out that it was not only conductive, but it was able to absorb energy coming from the sun and then convert it into electricity, which makes this material a perfect candidate for solar to electricity conversion. But we already know how to do that with something that everybody knows. These silicon solar cells, which are nowadays the most sustainable, clean, and cheap way of getting electricity. So why we are trying to find a new material? This is because silicon solar cells have still some drawbacks. First of all, the silicon wafers, which are at the core of this panel, are very fragile. This is why we need to encapsulate them to prevent them from breaking. And so we end up with a structure, as the one shown in the figure, that is very hard, rigid, and heavy. Second of all, silicon is not super efficient at converting sunlight into electricity. This is because it has an intrinsic low efficiency, because it cannot absorb the high energy photons of the solar spectrum, which are then released as heat that we can eventually damage the solar cell itself. But most importantly, the cost of manufacturing is still very high. This is because we need first to purify sand and then grow single crystal from it. And the whole process is energetically and economically costly. This is because nowadays in the scientific community, we're trying to find new materials and new technology to create solar cells which are flexible, inexpensive, and cut their cost of production. But how can we do that? Can you imagine if we were able to find a material for solar cell that can be printed on flexible substrate like we do with newspaper? This is what we can do with perovskite solar cell. In fact, we can use the precursor of the crystal as an ink and then print them on plastic substrate. And we will end up with a material like this one. So as you can see, it's very flexible, lightweight, and inexpensive. And also, we calculated that we don't need a lot of ink to have the same power conversion efficiency as silicon. In fact, we only need 0.2 microns of active materials. And to give you an idea of the size we are talking about, this is more than 100 times less than the diameter of a human hair. So this makes this technology inexpensive and cut the cost of production. But to make this technology available in the market and a reality, we need infrastructure that will invest on next generation solar. This is why at the University of Washington in 2013, it was founded the Clean Energy Institute, with funding from the Washington state itself, and has the ultimate goal of accelerating the adoption of a scalable clean energy future. And they do that, I leave the sentence, by educating the people who will be the next generation of innovators in solar energy conversion. And not only they finance innovative research, but they also provide a shared facility where people from academia and industry can work together to accelerate the process of bringing this technology from the lab to the market. And a perfect example of this facility are the clean energy testbed. And one technology they're using is the one I'm showing in the picture, with a 30 feet long multi-step printer that is used to print solar panels, but also battery and also optical devices. And is the only one in the whole United States, and we have it here at the University of Washington. So I think it's very cool. And in my everyday research, I work with Professor David Ginger, who is the chief scientist of the Clean Energy Institute, and I'm working to find new materials for perovskite solar cell and to make the toxicity of the ink less. And so I'm trying to find a new lead-free perovskite crystal. And you can see very different outfit. And here I'm working inside the glove box and I'm creating the special ink. Then I put on substrate using a very special technique called spin coating. And then I analyze them to boost their power conversion efficiency with different spectroscopical techniques. And apart the fact that I really like my everyday work in the lab box, but the research, the thing I like most is that I have the feeling that every day in my work I'm actively contributing to a clean energy future for all. And I came here all the way from Italy to achieve this goal, and that was all thanks to Fulbright. And I think that the most worthy thing that this overwhelming Fulbright experience has given me so far is the fact that this program, like no other else program, is able to connect people from very different backgrounds. But everyone shares one thing that is the most important: a huge passion for what they do. And I believe that it's only by this teamwork and diversity and excitement that we will actually be able to find true solution for the problem we are facing in the world. And most of all, overcoming the energetical and environmental crisis we are facing today. Thank you.